Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're doing good today. Today we have an interesting topic: how to let go of fear. And fear is very powerful and is an emotion that can hold us back from achieving our true potentials. It whispers doubts into our minds and it paralyzes our actions and it keeps us confined within our boundaries or our comfort zones. So today I have an expert, someone I consider an expert. I have a clinical psychologist and someone who is involved in therapy and psychological interventions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sade-Louise Fergus. Hi, Sade. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
How was this week for you?
Yeah, I just had a busy working week, and I'm just trying to relax this Saturday, to be honest, and have some rest, recovery.
Have you got any other plans apart from this recording today? Have you got any other plans for the weekend?
I think I'm actually just going to stay in bed, just literally having rest. It's very cold right now, so I think it's indoors weather for sure.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So let's meet you, Shadi. Let's meet you. Who are you?
So me, I'm a Caribbean woman, and I'm a clinical psychologist. And I work in the NHS. I've been working as a therapist and just recently qualified as a clinical psychologist. So most of my life has been working in this field. Something I'm really passionate about.
Oh, congratulations on your qualification. It's always one of those good things, isn't it? To see that the hard work that you've put in sometimes, has been rewarded. So congrats on that from all of us at the Chat with the Tycoon. So right. So how to let go of fear? What do you think about the topic?
I think it's really interesting. I think both, not just like on a professional level, but just personally. I think, there's been a lot of times in my life where I've experienced fear and I've had to maybe overcome it to even get to where I am today. So I think it's just a topic that probably resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah. So has that been like any personal thing that, experience that you can share with us? Anyone?
I think just sharing a few, like sometimes, so even like the road to kind of being successful in your career, you kind of maybe have a lot of fear of failure. Sometimes you might even fear being successful and what it means if you actually like achieve your dreams almost. And then even just, my personal life, just experiencing fear in different ways. So even down to like I have a spider phobia and it's just a phobia, but actually this is a big fear that shows up in my life. So I've also had to, manage it in different ways because fear can, show up differently. It doesn't always have to be, cycle. It could be things like phobias as well. So a range of fears I think I've had to.
Yeah. I'll say mine is roaches. I'm afraid of cockroaches. I dread them. I've always feared cockroaches. There are not many of them here, but obviously I grew up in Nigeria and there are lots of, obviously, the weather, and there are lots of roaches everywhere. So it's common to see them. I don't think I'm above that fear. So maybe I can come to you for some therapy on how to overcome my fear of cockroaches.
I'm my spider one, but I'm sure I can help.
So have you actually overcome that fear then? Or is it?
I think it's like a process. It's a process. I'm definitely better, but that is something I'm like, I think that's always going to be there with me in some way. But it's something I'm better at. I've started to let go, I think.
Yeah, but today, we're not focusing on roaches and spiders and animals. We want to focus on just fear in general. The fear of maybe people getting into relationships. Some people are now afraid of relationships, or fear of sort of putting in more effort so that we can achieve our aims and objectives in our careers. Like you said there about your qualification and all that. So that's what we're going to focus on today mainly. We just want to help our audience to have a very young audience, and lots of people are still trying to find their feet in sort of their careers. Some people are still in the moment where they're asking themselves, what really am I going to focus on? Where is my competitive advantage? Where can I do more? So, for all of you guys watching, if you want to understand how you can overcome those fears, Dr. Sade-Louise Fergus is here today to help you to overcome those. So let's talk about the strategies, right, and techniques that you've advised your clients and your patients. So what are the strategies and techniques that you found most effective in managing fear?
Yeah. So I think when we're scared and we're experiencing fear, a lot of what we're doing is we're kind of engaging in avoidance. So either you're avoiding doing something or you're even avoiding thinking about something. And obviously it makes sense that you want to do that because you don't want to face the fear. But the thing is with fear, you need to actually be aware of what it is that you're scared of. You need to kind of face those fears head on. And that also means asking yourself those questions and like being quite curious and just enhancing your self-awareness. So often sometimes people who come with anxiety or fear, like you have to have the difficult conversations, like what is it that you're fearful of, and really understanding that for yourself. When we think of fear, it's kind of it's like that everlasting doubt in your mind. It's that questioning yourself. It's that, sometimes that idea where you think that the worst thing is going to happen. Yeah. And actually, when you're doing that, you become really not actually that self-aware of even what you're doing. And you might notice that your thoughts are spiraling. And really, you have to kind of increase your awareness to those things and be able to actually tolerate asking yourself the difficult questions. What am I scared of and why am I scared of it? So I think it kind of really starts from that as well. Yeah, and I think understanding what fear is really important. So understanding that fear is it is that worst case scenario thinking. It's that thinking negatively sometimes as well. And if you let that rule your life, then actually you're not going to do anything. And actually sometimes we've got to use, fear is such a powerful emotion. We've sometimes labeled it as something bad, but actually we need a little bit of fear. It helps us to succeed as well. So I think it's kind of really understanding that.
Yeah. So the first strategy is, what am I afraid of? Okay, now you've been able to identify the problem. What's the next step then?
So the next thing is actually, how am I going to face this problem? And I don't mean just jumping into the deep end. It's actually, what are the steps I need to take to really break this down for myself and gradually face the fear? So I think the key thing is that gradual, kind of those little steps that you need to take. Because obviously we have those phrases like just jump into the deep end, but actually when you're scared of something, just facing it head on is really difficult. And sometimes it breaks it down into steps and how can I slowly start to face this fear. So I think letting go of fear is something you have to do proactively. There's things you've got to do in order to actually face them.
So let's give an example. Let me say someone who's not confident in themselves because they think they're overweight. So the next thing is they need to start doing those little things. They need to start maybe eating a bit less, or maybe using the staircase instead of the elevators. Just those little things, right? Just taking care of their bodies overall, identifying the right things to eat, right? So those little steps. So does it always work that if you take those steps, you're going to achieve? Do you need help from people, and how can you seek help? Let's use the example that I gave of someone who's overweight. After identifying the problem, what did they do?
Yes, I think sometimes you might need help from other people and you might need your support system. So especially if you're trying to eat healthily, but your friends want to go out and get a takeaway every day and those things, you might need the people around you to also encourage you. So not only would it be taking those steps, but you've also probably got to shift your mindset as well. So even if you are kind of, exercising and you're trying to do those steps, you also got to think about building that confidence within yourself. And actually, if you're feeling not confident because you're maybe overweight, actually there are probably other things you need to do to look after yourself and build that confidence. I think the reason what I've kind of noticed is where we go wrong in facing your fears is when we set ourselves unrealistic goals. So if I want to increase, for example, exercise and kind of be more healthier, I might set myself a goal such as I want to exercise 5 times a week, right? Actually, because your goal is so kind of quite like, quite strong, it's quite intense, it might be a little bit unrealistic. So what happens then is the day that, let's just say you've got a really busy week at work, you then don't go to the gym 5 days a week. You will then feel like a failure because you set yourself such a goal that is such a high expectation. And then you feel like a failure, you feel rubbish, and then you just basically like, oh my God, like I'm going to give up. Whereas if you said to yourself, I want to go to the gym as much as possible, what it means is that even in the weeks where you do only go 2 or 3 times, a week, you're still achieving a goal. And the idea is if you achieve that little bit, then you're able to kind of achieve the bigger goals. And maybe you can work up to going 5 days a week. But if you don't go to school, going 5 days a week is a massive goal. And what you're going to do is trip yourself up. So you have to be realistic when you're facing your fears.
I really wanted us to talk about sort of a little bit of the details there, and thanks for giving us a little bit of those details as to identify the problem and set realistic goals. So I'm summarizing it now, guys. Identify the problem, set realistic goals, and then go from there. So let's talk about fear in itself. What are the kinds of fear and how do you break it down?
So when we think about fear in itself, is fear on an evolutionary basis, it was there to keep ourselves safe. Like we need it as an emotion. And I think what we've done is start to run away from it. We need it. It's a survival strategy. It's the way of your body kind of telling you that there's a potential threat, for example. So that's actually what fear is. So if we think of fear like that, it's like, oh, actually, like this is an emotion to keep myself safe. It's an emotion to essentially aid survival. I guess what's happened as we've evolved is we needed to use that fear because, we needed to be scared of animals or things that could hurt us, for example, right? That was the need for fear. But now in this day and age, we've become fearful of other things. So we're kind of triggering that fear response in situations that it's not a life or death scenario, but we're feeling, and in our body, we're experiencing like that. And I think that's where we start to go into that rational and irrational fear. So irrational fear is when the emotion you're feeling is proportionate to the situation. It's actually a life or death scenario. There's actually something happening that could really impact your life. And though it makes sense to feel fear, but irrational fear is when there's no life or death. It's not proportionate, and you're maybe so scared of something and it doesn't actually match up with the scenario. So that's how I would kind of break down fear to people. And even that is useful, to understand it in that way as well.
Right. I didn't think of it that way. Thanks for breaking. Now I know the difference between irrational and rational. And you're right. Obviously, the rational one is you don't go into a jungle, for instance, without there's danger of a dangerous animal coming at you somehow. But then irrational is just a state of mind, right? It's not real. It's just something you're saying that is not actually there. Is that another way of saying it?
That is another way of saying it. Also
Sorry, go on.
No, I was also thinking that our mind is so powerful. Our mind has become that jungle. Like your mind is making you feel like you are under threat, and that's just the power of thoughts, really.
Also, have we just become so soft as a society?
I mean, we've changed, haven't we? And like, there isn't those life or death fears every day. So now life or death becomes other things that were not meant to be the things that cause us fear. So I do think as a society, we've changed. And it's also mean we've evolved to fear things that we would never fear in the previous kind of years, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So what's the role of mindfulness. I don't even know what this means, but maybe you'll be able to break it down for us. What's the role of mindfulness in helping us to let go of fear?
Yeah. So I guess mindfulness, people sometimes think it's just like meditation and sitting still, but it's not. It's essentially kind of thinking of the first point I made. It's about self-awareness. So if you don't even know you're fearful, or you don't even know where you're scared of, what you're scared of, you can't begin to tackle it. So mindfulness in terms of fear is actually being aware of what it is that is going through your mind, what it is that your body's feeling. Because if you are able to increase your awareness of those things, then you're able to do something about it. Rather than just living in, like, if you're living in that fight or flight and you're just feeling scared, you might not actually be aware of what it is. So mindfulness increases that self-awareness. What it also does is, normally when we're scared or when we're fearful, we're living in the future. We're in some worst case scenario thing. We're in that what if. We're in that what if this that happens. And actually, when we do that, we're not in the present moment. And so mindfulness is about bringing us back to the present moment and actually what is happening for us right now. And if we do that, we can put in some useful action and be like, why am I doing something that is 2 years away? Am I going to be scared for this whole 2 years, or am I going to live in the present moment and take it day by day? So that's how kind of I'll describe how it's useful in this scenario.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's really a smart way of saying, because obviously it's all, fear is mainly, especially the irrational one anyway, right? It's mainly about something we're seeing that we haven't actually experienced. It's mainly about, it's just the way we're seeing an outcome that hasn't come yet. So as people who are going into a relationship or who are trying to get by or trying to make it to either in business or anything, you're going to have to work. So I like that you use the word there, action. Yeah. So guys, action. Let's take action. Let's get out from thinking and instead doing. So strategizing. So again, I come back again. Identify the problem, find out the strategies, right? What am I going to do? And then action. Come out from thinking and then start doing. Yeah. Thank you very much there for that very, very intelligent breakdown. So then how about positive self-talk? Can you explain to us and to the audience how positive self-talk and affirmations can help us in overcoming fear?
So the way we think is basically the way we talk to ourselves. So if you're telling yourself you're not going to make it, you're not going to succeed, you start to kind of embody that essentially. And actually, if you talk to yourself in a positive way, it also allows you to believe the opposite. It allows you to believe that, I can succeed in this career. Like, I can find a good relationship, for example, or I can do this goal that I really want to do. So I think it's all about understanding that our thoughts are so powerful. I was to sit and think about all my worst fears, my body would react physiologically. I would have a reaction. My heart might start racing. I might start sweating. All of those things. That's just by thinking. So you can actually think yourself, and then your thoughts become that tiger that is literally going to attack you, when actually there's nothing there. You've kind of made these scenarios up in your mind. Actually, when we're thinking of it in that way, when we think positively, we can create a new reality for ourselves. And actually, it can help us to let go of all of those fear. We can speak to ourselves in a rational way. We can actually, tell ourselves, we are going to succeed. And even if I tell myself I am going to succeed, I'm going to do this, it spurs me into action. I'm like, okay, yeah, how am I going to do it then? And you kind of get that feeling. So that's why it can create a new reality for yourself as well. So just understanding the power of thoughts and self-talk is really important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm while you were talking there, I was just trying to think of situations where, there are sometimes you see things that, maybe you haven't done before. And so you can't do that thing, not because you can't do it, but because you haven't done it before. But actually, I've seen that in those kind of scenarios, after when I actually start and break it down, and I'm like, oh, this was actually easy. This. Do you feel like that sometimes?
Yeah,
This wasn't.
that
you
bad.
know.
Kind of anticipated something to be so difficult, and then you do it, and was like, oh, is that what I was scared of?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, I'm sure it's happened to all of us. So, guys, let us know a situation where where you've been afraid of something, and then after doing it or while doing it, you find out that it was actually a piece of cake after all. You know, I could have, I could have done it since.
yeah.
Um, so, what advice would you give to someone who feels paralyzed, by fear, who feels that they're not good enough?
So I think firstly is kind of understanding how it is that you're talking to yourself and the things that you're thinking. Because if you're telling yourself, for example, that you're not good enough, then you're not going to feel good enough. You're also, that emotion that you're experiencing isn't going to be potentially like, a positive one. So I think firstly, when you're paralyzed by fear, understanding how it is, what it is that you're saying to yourself, and understanding that when you're trying to kind of maybe change something about your life, or there's something you're scared of, if you see that thing as a threat, then you're going to run away from it. But also viewing this thing that you're scared of, what opportunities could this also give you? So if I actually put myself out there, like, what opportunities, not just the threats and not just the things that could go wrong, but what are the things that could go right if I kind of
Yeah.
from that fear? So not kind of going around and seeing everything as a threat, but also as an opportunity. So I think that would be really key. And also just some self-care and relaxation, because if you're not feeling good enough, probably what you're doing is you're probably not doing the best for yourself. You might not even be looking after yourself. And actually, in order to spur yourself into action, you've got to also have some energy to want to do that, whether it be mental or physical energy as well. So I think just really thinking of those things, how it is you're talking about yourself, how it is that you're, approaching your goals as well, and what it is that you're seeing in the world. Like, can these things also provide you with a great opportunity? And if you're just fearful, you're going to miss out on great things on life, all because of fear. A good question is to ask yourself, in 5 years' time, where would I want to be? And what would I say to myself? And you can think, in 5 years' time, would I still want to be paralyzed by this fear and not wanting to do this goal? Or in 5 years' time, where would I want to be, and how do I get there?
Yeah, while you were speaking, something came to my mind. Just do a SWOT analysis and identify the strengths that you have. What are the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats?
Yeah.
Obviously, strengths and weaknesses are inside. Opportunities and threats are outside. You can use the outside factors to strengthen yourself, to give yourself strength.
Yes.
Why? You learn a skill, you learn skills that strengthens you through taking an opportunity. And yeah, every opportunity has its own threats, and every threat also has its own opportunities. I'm just buttressing your point there. I'm just sort of hitting it hard there to my audience. Guys, you need to identify your strengths, especially this is January, this is New Year. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Busy told us that we should let go of anything that's going to discourage us from achieving our aims and aspirations in this new year. So guys, fear is nothing. You can do it. Trust me, you can do it. Just moving on. So let's talk about, there are lots of misconceptions. A lot of people have different ideas of what fear is, and there's different talks there, there's different podcasts there, there's different books there, there's different things about fear and what it is. So what are some common misconceptions about fear that you think the people listening to you right now should be aware of?
So I'm thinking firstly that fear is a bad thing is a really common one. It's a bad thing. No, like it's a gut feeling. It's telling me that something isn't right. And I think we need to be a bit mindful of that as well, because that means that when you feel that feeling, you're like, no, I shouldn't do this. This means that something's going to be scary. Again, seeing fear as something that can also spur you on. So let's just say you've got to give a presentation or a talk. If you feel like a fear, you might say, actually, this is too scary. I feel scared. Let me not do that. But actually, in the other way, if you feel scared about something, that might be the exact time that you should do something. Because it might be that this opportunity is so, you might even be excited. It might be that this is such a big opportunity that you do have some of that fear. So let that fear actually spur you on into action and not let you kind of retreat into yourself. Actually, there's something I'm scared of. That means that it's a challenge. Let me go for that challenge. That means I'm probably doing something that might just be a bit like above what I know, but that's an opportunity to learn. Like, let's do that. Let's go for that thing that's a bit bigger. So I think thinking it's a bad thing means that fear is going to hold you back. So sometimes I use that fear. I'm like, like if I'm feeling scared about this, this means that this is going to be a challenge. And actually, let me go for the challenge. What am I going to achieve by going for?
Yeah. Do you know what? That's the best. I think that's the best one you could have actually given us today. That's the best one. Because come to think of it, if you want to achieve anything, anyone that has ever achieved anything in life, they've taken a level of risk. And if you don't take risks, you don't achieve. So again, I'm just buttressing the point again, guys. There's great positives from overcoming fear, from saying, oh, now I'm afraid of this. This is when I'm going to do it. This is the right time. You don't want to get into a space when it's already saturated. Maybe it's now common. But if you look at an opportunity and get in very quickly, then you become a pioneer. You become the first person to do something, and that will be as a result of you taking risk. That's a very, very, very great one. Let's talk about visualizations. Visualizations are something I'm really, really interested in. Actually, this thing. I mean, I'm not interested in, obviously not the psychological part of it, but as an accountant and someone who's sort of getting into data a little bit, I love visualizations. The examples would be when you look at the news or something and you see some of those very interesting works. That's basically visualizations. But what we're talking about here is internal visualizations, and also things like just putting up something that you have to be the first to see every morning, this kind of stuff. So how can visualization techniques be used to reduce anxiety and fear?
So sometimes you can't you feel like you can't achieve a goal because you might not be able to imagine yourself doing something. So it's almost that if you're using visualizations, like first you can imagine yourself like achieving that goal, like imagine yourself taking that step, visualizing yourself opening that business, visualizing yourself doing that public talk. Like we use it in so many different ways. And I think people like to do like creating vision boards and things like that, actually, where you kind of, have a vision for your future. You create something that looks like that. Then every morning you're waking up and you're looking at that. You're kind of putting yourself in your future self's shoes, essentially. And actually, you sometimes can't be what you can't imagine. So if you can imagine something, then it's even more powerful that you could be in that position. So it's all about seeing yourself in the future doing it as well, I think is really important. I can't be what I can't imagine. And I know sometimes, in different fields, I know, there's, if you're just talking about my own field of psychology, sometimes I hadn't seen that many Black psychologists. So it's like, it was making me feel like, oh, I can't see myself. So how could I be it? So I had to then visualize my own self being that person. I had to say, no, but this is my goal and I'm going to get there. And I had to imagine myself actually being there. And then I get to embody it. So I think it's really important.
Yeah. Very, very, very true there. And I think it works. Because as much as our world is physical, is also spiritual as well. Sometimes when you see things, I think it gives you that extra layer of push to go ahead and work on them. Yeah. So how about like support systems then?
Mm,
What role do they play in helping you overcome your fears?
mm,
Maybe family, friends, um, colleagues. How can support systems help in
mm.
overcoming fear?
So I know earlier we was talking about things like positive self-talk. But
Mm.
sometimes if you haven't been able to develop that for yourself, you might get that from other people. So you might have people and the support systems around you who are encouraging you, who are telling you you can achieve a goal, who are supporting you. And sometimes when other people believe in you, it can support you to believe in yourself. And some people need that first, and then they can cultivate that for themselves. So having people around you who are supportive, having people around you who lift you up, can also help you to overcome your fears as well. And I think also being fearful can be quite a lonely place because it's all up in your
Yeah.
mind. So actually, when you share your fears with other people, they can help to rationalize those things as well. And actually, I always say, if you was to say half of your thoughts or fears out loud, you'd realize sometimes they probably sound a bit silly. And so when you say it
Yeah.
out to somebody else, they're like, oh, come on. Like, like you get that corrected feedback. So I think actually sharing with your support system is important, and having people around you who believe in you can really help to lift you up.
Yeah. 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 I mean, especially obviously like, especially people like your parents, for instance, or mentors as well. I think they might have more experience than you, so they're the ones that can
Mm,
hold and say, no, I've been through this before. This is what you have to do. Do this, do this, do this. Yeah, and I have a video on how to guys go and check that video out. If you haven't seen that one, go check it out. Why you need a mentor? Very, very, very important. Just can you talk a little bit about it as well? Why
yeah.
do people need mentorship?
I think so. A little bit about what I said. Like, I managed to get a mentor, and she was a black female psychologist, and I was like, oh my god, like she made it. And actually being able to ask somebody who's maybe done something that you wanted to achieve, and ask them about their journey and understand their journey, and also that helps to talk about your own fears, and they can give you advice. So I think a mentor is so needed. You get to really get the knowledge of somebody else. You get to speak about your fears, you get to speak about all your worries, and they help to give you that feedback. And it also helps you to, it just really helps to motivate yourself as well, when you
Mm.
again see what it is that you would like to be. And that person kind of acts as a coach, like they can teach you. It's just invaluable, really. I think
Yeah.
everybody has a mentor. Like you need sometimes that person who has done it to say, this is the tools I did, this is what I did, these are the tools, these are the strategies. I think that's really helpful.
Let's move on. Different people have different perspectives on fear, right? So how can reframing our perspectives on fear lead to personal growth and empowerment?
If we probably look at people who were like really successful in life in general, they're probably people who were taking on challenges. It's not that they wasn't feeling the fear, but they were feeling fear and still going for it as well.
Yeah.
So I guess if just thinking about your perspective, it's about how am I going to, instead of being like, I guess, like paralyzed by my fears, how am I going to use it? How am I going to use it in a way that helps me to do things? So I think a lot of successful people have actually gone through a lot, and you're just thinking, oh, they're just, happy at the end. But they probably had all of those fears, but they went
Fears.
for their goals anyway. So they kind of understood that there are going to be challenges. There are going to be things that are maybe like fearful. There are going to be things that are difficult. And actually, if you
Mm.
get away from them, then you're going to lose out on life. And actually
Yeah.
saying, yes, this is going to be difficult. Yes, this is going to be challenging, but how can I do it anyway? So I think almost doing that sometimes in terms of fear as well, using
Yeah.
it as a tool, like not shying away from it. Because if you don't do things
Mm.
because you're scared, you won't do anything in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what that means is resilience. You need to be resilient, and you need to be steadfast, and you need to believe in yourself, that you can do it and that you can overcome, and that because there will always be challenges.
Yeah.
Like I think we've already sort of touched on that. There are always challenges. There are always be things that will come that you didn't anticipate. If we anticipate everything that happens to us in life, then I think there's really
Wouldn't be fun.
It's a smooth sail, right? That's not how it works, guys.
Not how
That's
it
not
works.
how it works. So
And let's just say
you need
you
to
like
hang in there.
do. Let's just say you don't.
Yeah.
You go for a job interview and you don't get it. If you let fear take over, you're going to be like, actually, I'm so scared of rejection. I'm not going to ever apply for a job again. You know, you might be really scared, but if you say, do you know what? I didn't get that one, but I'm going to get the next one. And even if I don't get that one, I'm going to keep going. That's also a way that you kind of understand those challenges and keep going with it, I think.
Yeah, true. Right. So how about like practical tools or exercises? Which ones do you recommend for someone who is looking to let go of fear?
Yeah. So I would recommend, I know this isn't for everyone, but what I would recommend is some people find it really useful, in my experience, to write down their fears. So some people have different relationships. It doesn't have to be necessarily a journal, but writing down your fears helps you to understand what it is that you're scared of. It also helps you to understand the mess that is your mind sometimes. So even writing down fears. Some people even are scared to write down their fears because they think it's going to make it real as well. But we know that's also not true. And again, this is all about facing your fears. So let's write them down. Like, let's see what it is that I'm scared of. There's something really powerful about seeing something in your mind on paper because it helps you to rationalize it a bit more. It helps you to see it a bit more objectively. So I'd recommend that. I would recommend mindfulness as well, as I said, about being more present in your day-to-day life. Being present and understanding what it is that you're thinking and feeling is really important. And I guess really just, self-care and managing, because I guess the more kind of steady your emotions are as well, means the more you can put in rational thinking. So if there's a task, and let's just say your fear about something is a 9 out of 10, that you don't have much space for rational thinking. Your fear responses are up here. But if you're doing self-care, you're relaxing, maybe that fear can come down to a 5 out of 10, for example, and you've got space to be like, okay, let me think about this a bit more rationally. Let me put in that thinking. We can't do that when we're overwhelmed with emotions. It's too much to tolerate. So we need to kind of bring that down to more of an equilibrium, really. I think that's really important. And talking to other people about it. There's probably people who feel the same, and you're probably sitting there thinking that it's just me that feels like this, but actually there's probably other people, and that can be a great support for others as well.
I'm going to start doing everything that you've just said. I'm going to start writing down my fears. All right, my fears, where are you? I'll write all of them down today. Yeah, I don't think writing something down brings it into existence. I think it just helps you to as well write down the strategies that you can use, and to not forget it as well, because sometimes we even forget what we're afraid of. Yeah.
I think I was thinking of one as well, which I should have mentioned. Doing things gradually, like breaking things down in steps. If you have a goal, break that goal down into 10 steps you need to get there. And it might seem really kind of petty, but actually when you have something really like a big thing that you want to achieve and you're scared of it, it's because you've got to break it down. There's probably steps you need to take to sometimes get to a place in life. So I think facing fears gradually. Don't just go and face the thing you're scared of the most. Like, you've got to break these things down as well. What do I need to get to the first step? What do I need to get to the second step, third step, and so on until I reach that goal? So taking things gradually and being kind to yourself as well is going to be really important.
Yeah, that's very, very good. I'm gonna start, like I said, I'm gonna start writing down my fears now from today. So guys watching, you guys should start writing, start writing down your fears, and so that we can, and the reason why we're all gonna write it down is so that this year we can overcome all the fears this year. We don't want to be carrying new fears over to another year, so there will always be setbacks, right? There will always be challenges that I think I've already talked about. There will be failures. I think it's part of life. There will be things that we're disappointed about. So how do we handle them? How do we handle these setbacks, these downtimes, in terms of relative to overcoming fear?
Yeah. So I think I would say that whenever you have a setback or you have a failure, if that's what you want to call it, is ask yourself, what did I learn from that? Because actually, if you see any time that you have a setback or something maybe doesn't go from your way, there's always a lesson in there. And if we think, do you know what, that didn't go my way, but what did I learn from that? You've probably learned something in that process. And
Yeah.
that thing that you've learned is going to help you to not fail the next time or help you to succeed the next time. So I think also maybe as well, maybe not using that word for failure for yourself, just saying, okay, I had that thing, it didn't work out. That was a setback. All right, what am I going to do to continue? So it's all about reflecting and thinking, what did we learn from that? There's a lesson in everything that happens in life. So I'm, even sometimes when things don't go our way, it's about there was probably a reason for that. What am I meant to learn from this? What am I meant to take from this? And how do I kind of integrate that into something else so that the next time it's even better? So yeah, learning from setbacks.
Yeah. We need to learn from setbacks. I'm going to learn from my setbacks as well. I mean, we're coming towards home stretch now, and it's been a really, really interesting conversation with you today, Sade-Louise. Honestly, I'm really appreciate you, and really appreciative of your time today. So, what are some signs then that indicate someone is making progress? Now we've talked about fear, we've talked about how to overcome it, we've talked about how sort of the things to do specifically. So then what shows you then that, I'm making progress? Because that can be really discouraging if you're doing everything you can, but nothing has changed. So how do you keep track of the progress you're making?
So I would say that it would be about, thinking about what steps you have taken towards your goals, so what you're actually doing. But I think sometimes we're always really negative about ourselves. So sometimes when I'm having a therapy session, this person will be like, oh, I had such a bad week. And I will just pause them and say, what went well this week? So even asking yourself those questions, what went well? Like, what did I do this week? And I probably think if you're on the road to kind of facing a fear or kind of overcoming a challenge, there are probably things that you're doing, but you're just not aware that you're doing it. And sometimes I'm like, I bet you did something well this week. And they'll be like, actually, I did go gym once. And it's like, but because I didn't go 5 times, that wasn't a success. Well, it is. That's still progress. So I think it's about as well not setting yourself these really high, unrelenting standards, because you need to feel some sense of achievement to spur you on. And if you don't recognize any of your achievements, then you're not actually going to recognize when you've made progress. Like, you have to say, actually, even though that was a small step, I did this week. So I think actually it's monitoring when things go well. It's actually keeping a kind of note of the things that you are doing, because when we're in a kind of fearful or negative frame of mind, we don't see all the positives that we're doing and we just focus on the negatives. It's a human kind of really natural human way that we just focus on the negatives. So you actually have to bring in the positives into life and actually recognize all of your achievements and thinking, even if you've done something so small, that's again a step towards your goal. So when you break it down gradually, you're like, actually, but that is a step towards the first thing that I needed to do. So you have to recognize your achievements, and you have to say, actually, I did this well this week. It'll be better if I did more, but I did this. So kind of still having that for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a good feeling when you know you've done something right. I mean, for myself, for sure, I always feel good when I know, I've achieved something, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone. So I think it's good to. That's right. It's good to keep track, and it's good to congratulate yourself and be like, yeah, well done. Now let's go again.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. Really fantastic having you on the channel today. Is there something else you want to add on this topic, just to as a matter of sort of concluding on the topic before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think just bolstering that point that fear is not a bad thing. Like, use fear to spur you on and use it to spur you into action. Yeah, I think that is going to be my last message. Like, don't fear, like feel the fear and kind of do it anyway, is what I would say. And see fear as an opportunity to challenge yourself. Don't just see it as a threat. Like, you know, really see it as an opportunity. So that'd be my
last. Okay, just one more question before, maybe if you have any question for me, because I'd like you to ask me a question. I asked a question earlier about if we've become very soft. I just want to sort of follow up on that one again. So do you think, in terms of fear now, like, do you think the way the world is going, the way the society is going, do you think people are being prepared to see fear as an opportunity, or do you think nothing much has changed?
Yeah. I think almost there's just so much going on in the world now. Like, there's just so much stuff. There's so much information that I think it is making us scared of everything. And you know, when you're saying we become fearful of absolutely everything. That actually sometimes our parents and grandparents, they weren't scared of these things, but now we are, because everything's scary and everything's, you know, fearful. So I think in that way, we've kind of got all of this information that we've become just anxious and like, you know, just really fearful of the world, I think, which I guess it might make sense in some ways, but I think it's information overload almost.
Yeah, so are you saying the media feeds us with a lot of crap that makes us afraid? Is that what I'm saying?
I would say so.
Okay, that's going to be a huge headline. Sade-Louise accuses the media of putting fear in the world. Right, that's just on a lighter note there. Do you have any question for me? Just anything?
I guess I was thinking, you know, because not everybody needs therapy and needs like a psychologist. Like, some people can face fears, I guess, on their own and drawing on those own strengths. So I guess just asking you, like, a time when you felt fear and how maybe you overcame it, even if it was for yourself.
So I moved to the UK in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. So after like the first lockdown was lifted. And also at the time as well, there was this riot in Nigeria about NSAS as well. So it was also in the middle of those riots. So I remember they were going to block the airport. So I had to leave very, very early in the morning. So that whole thing, that whole issue, that whole sort of having to move to a different place, it was something. I wasn't sure of what was going to happen. I wasn't sure how it was going to come out. I wasn't sure like what the future was going to be. But what did I do? I just, I was just taking it every day as it comes and doing what I had to do to make sure that, you know, I didn't run into any problems. And in the end, I would say, you know, things are a lot better now. I would say I've overcome those times, and I would say, I can sort of see what the future is going to be like now from where I stand. That's it really. So having to move to a different country, it was a big fear for me, because obviously I wasn't really sure how I was going to adapt, how I was going to carry on. That was a big one, I would say. I didn't have to go to therapy. I just had to, don't worry, I didn't have to go to therapy. I just worked it out somehow. So is there anything that, you know, that's coming up for you? Do you have any events you want to maybe tell people, or you want us to attend, or you have anything that you're doing that maybe we should look out for? This is also an opportunity for you to also tell the audience what you do as well, if maybe people can reach out to you for therapy or for any issues. Just go on and share with us.
So just that I'm in the process of just publishing my thesis. And I did a research project about Black fathers and their experiences of raising Black sons. So share that I'll be publishing that soon. I think for me, it's really important to, like, just personally and professionally, I like to understand and focus on Black men's mental health, because I think that, you know, Black men experience so much and they don't maybe have the tools and the opportunities to share their experiences. And I think that Black fathers who are showing up for their kids are never celebrated, really. The only ones you hear about are maybe when they're not doing those things. So yeah, just to say that I'll be publishing that research, and it's, you know, just really highlights the importance of Black fathers and also how passionate they are about their children and how we help young men and Black boys, especially in the UK. Can be a difficult place to live, I think, especially for a Black man. So I hope to kind of support them in that sense. So when I publish that research, I'll give it to you to share as well.
Thank you very much for being on the channel today. Thank you very much, guys, for being on Chat with the Tycoon today. You know what it is, guys. Subscribe to the channel, you know, like the channel, like the video. If you like the video, give it a like, you know, give it a thumbs up, guys. Comment on the video as well. Let us know what you are fearful about. You know, comment on the video. Tell us, is there anything you're fearful about? Obviously, you can reach out to Sade-Louise as well. All her socials are in the description below of the video. And yeah, subscribe, share the video as well. You know, let your family and friends understand how to let go of fear. And guys, until I see you again on the next one, take care, goodbye, and God bless.